Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our PGI Live Q&A session with Bob Proctor. My name is Tracy Caligiuri, and I am excited to welcome you to the line. We have quite a few questions to get through this hour, so Bob, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started.
I was all ready.
All right. Our first question is from Isabel. I have never heard you talk about astrology, and I am intrigued. Can the planets, their position, and eclipses have an impact on our lives? Is this governed by one of the universal laws?
I have not studied astrology in any depth, but I believe it does have an effect on us. A full moon affects water, doesn't it? I do believe it. Yeah.
Okay. Next one's from
the law of rhythm. Now, I've not really studied it in any depth, but I believe there's validity to it.
Okay. Next one's from Noah. In regards to Phil Goldfine, what were the exact instructions given to him at the beginning of his study with you that impacted his income and career? The specifics that I can employ in my career.
You know, it's interesting you asked that. Tomorrow I'm going to meet Phil in New York, and we're going to see Tootsie. It's opening night. He's on Broadway. And you know that since 1930, there's been 3,070, I believe, Oscars handed out. There's only been 26 people who've won an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Tony. He has won an Oscar and an Emmy, and it looks like he's going to win a Tony for Tootsie on Broadway. Now, the Oscar is for movies, the Emmy is for TV, and the Tony's for Broadway. If he gets a Tony, he'll be the 27th person. It's very rare that a producer would work or a person would work on all three different areas. What did I tell him? Well, there's no really specific things that I told him. It's not like ABC. It depends on where he was and what he was doing. And I would say, if you want to solve that, here's how you do that. You've got to do this. And like the repetition of something. I would tell him to read a book or read a chapter in the book every day for maybe 90 days, same chapter. And I suggested that he read it with someone. In other words, he'd start reading and then he'd read maybe 10 or 20 lines and he'd say, pass. The other person would pick up and have to pick up right then. That meant that the other person was reading along with him. He just wasn't speaking the words. But whatever I tell him, I would find out, what's going on in his life. And then I'd say, this is what you should do there. And I remember once he told me that he had a movie, I think it was in Bulgaria, but the actor that was going to do it wouldn't work there because of some nuclear plant nearby. And I said, no, he'll work there. You just see yourself shooting the movie. And I said, image that every day. Well, the actor not only did the movie, he wanted to move there when they were shooting the movie. So I've told him different things at different times when, depending on what was coming up in his life, what would be necessary. But one thing that is absolutely necessary is the repetition of ideas. And that's something that the intellect just has difficulty accepting because we're not taught. Like we're taught to read something, you read it once, that's it. Well, that's not it. You read it once, you may get it intellectually, but you haven't changed anything on a subjective level. So he's just a very excellent student. I've been working with him now for about 17 years, and everything I tell him, he'll do. That's the way it works.
All right, next one's from Marla. Hi, Bob. I am interested to know your process of when you first began studying this material and how you happened upon the cleaning business. Any challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
That's a lot of questions. Well, the process, I really didn't know very much of anything. I hadn't gone to school. I had never had I just had laboring jobs. I'd been in and out of the Canadian Navy. So I'd never excelled or done anything of any consequence, and I was 26. And the man that really got me on this track, he told me something that I tell people if I work with them one-on-one, is you got to do exactly what I tell you until you find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about. I said I don't lie and I do know what I'm talking about. So anyway, he told me to study and lead the field. Well, I've got it on my desk. It's always on my desk. It's always with me. I'm going out on the road tomorrow. I'll be taking it with me. He said, read it every day, and I read it every day. And I did what he told me to do. And the really big win out of it was I formed the habit of doing what the mentor or the coach was telling me to do. Now, I had 5 or 6 other people over the years that has mentored or coached me, and I've always done exactly what they said. Now, I was after Ray Stanford was his name, I was very, very selective about the people that I would work with. I would only choose people that had already succeeded at what I wanted to do. I chose the cleaning business because the first goal I had, Ray had me write a goal on a card, was to earn $25,000. Now keep in mind, that was in 1961. I was earning $4,000 a year at the time. And so I'm telling myself I want to have 25,000. I mean, that was like saying I want to take the next ride to the moon. It was totally out of the box. I really didn't believe it would happen. But he said, you don't have to believe it. Write it down if you want it. And if you keep reading it, he said, you're going to start to believe it. You can write a lie on a card. If you read it often enough, you'll start to believe it. When you start to believe it, that's when everything starts to move in the right direction. Well, I heard someone say there was good money cleaning floors. I said, I'm not proud. I'll clean floors. Now, I had on this card that I was going to earn $25,000, so I kept reading the card. That got me thinking of earning money. Now, up until then, all I thought about was debt. If your goal is to get out of debt, you'll probably stay in debt forever. That can't be a goal. The goal should be for prosperity. One of the things you want to do is pay off your bills. I tell the people in second chapter of You Were Born Rich how to do that. But at any rate, this guy said there was good money cleaning floors, so I said, I'm not proud, I'll clean floors. And I started to clean offices. And I had a good person teach me how to clean offices, and you really have to know what you're doing. And at the end of the first year, I had my income up to $14,500 a month. I was only earning $4,000 a year on the fire department. The chief was only earning $11,000 a year. I was earning more money than the chief was. And then I eventually left, and I started to expand the business, went into different cities and then to the United States and then to England. So that's really where it all started. And I was in England, and I was earning over $1 million a year, and I was trying to figure out what I had done that made me apparently so successful, and I didn't know what I had done. I just done what I had been told, and I realized it took me 9.5 years to figure out what actually happened to me, because I knew I wasn't that smart. I'd been raised to believe you got to be really smart if you're earning a lot of money. I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a lot of money. So it took me 9.5 years, and when I figured out why I changed and the process that I had followed, at that point, all I wanted to do was teach it, and that's all I've done ever since. I've worked in this business, and I love it. I don't know if I answered all your questions, answered some of them, I suppose.
All right, next one's from Davender, and she has 2 questions. First one, my 13-year-old son has special needs. I have been stating affirmations to him before bedtime, such as, I am so happy and grateful now that I am becoming more focused, independent, better at reading, math, etc. I explained to him that it's good to stay positive, that it's good to state positive statements daily. He asked me to write something down for him to read daily. Please, could you kindly suggest something? I am trying to keep it manageable, simple, yet valuable. I find it gets complicated, and I want to add a lot to the affirmations.
Well, you're on the right track. And first of all, you want to understand, I don't know what the special need is that your son has. But I do know this, there's no such thing as mind damage. You'll often hear of mental retardation. That is a misnomer. There's no such thing. The mind is perfect. There may be brain damage, but there's so many healthy cells that are not doing it, and you can educate them to do what the damaged cells can no longer do. I would suggest you look up Glenn Doman's material. I think it's D-O-M-A-N, Glenn Doman. And they've done wonderful work for people that had special needs. Take something that he's having real difficulty with and then say, what would be the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of having difficulty with something, that he does it, and he does it very easily and naturally. And write down what the difficulty is, and write it in all its negative nature. And then say, what's the exact opposite of that? And begin by writing, I am so happy and grateful now that, and you explain that it's being done very well and easily. And present tense. And keep repeating that to him and have him repeat it every night as he's going to bed. If he can write, have him write it out 100 times every day. And keep doing that until you start to see that new result manifest in behavior and in results. Then work on something else. The repetition of the idea, when you put that idea in the subconscious mind, it has to express itself through the body. The body is an instrument of the mind. It's like a dumb terminal. As magnificent as it is, it can only do what the mind tells it. And through repetition, I don't care how absurd it may seem, but through repetition, when you plant an idea, it's got to be in the present tense, and keep feeding that idea through repetition, plant it over and over and over again. That idea ultimately must be expressed in behavior. And so therefore, it'll get the result. Now, it isn't sometimes, that's every time. May seem crazy, it might seem ridiculous, but tell you it works. Okay?
All right, and second question. My C goal includes making a quantum leap professionally in the public sector and becoming a multimillionaire. I have no plans as to how and what, but would like to earn my six-figure annual salary net on a monthly basis. It seems my goal and vision statement refers to both goals, and it feels odd to think about, as they would not coincide in reality. If I was truly a multimillionaire and pursuing the things I visualize, is it okay to keep both goals and manifest both outcomes?
Sure. You want to make a quantum leap professionally in the public sector. Well, that's how you're going to become the multimillionaire then. I don't know what you're doing, but I would recommend you seriously look at network marketing. I'm often asked, what would I do if I was starting over? Now, keep in mind, I have a very mature business. I've been at it for 50-some years. I would go into network marketing because I'd be very careful of where I went. Now, most companies have pretty good products. So it's not so much the company, it's the person that you're signing up with. Make certain that person is very successful in the business. Don't just go with anybody, because it's like anything. There's a small percentage win in a big way. But network marketing enables you to earn multiple sources of income. And if you want to become a multimillionaire, that's how you do it. Multiple sources of income. So I would seriously investigate it.
All right, next question is from Amer. I tend to intermingle and spend time with people who don't serve me anymore because they haven't changed or improved yet. I do it because I value the fact that they stood up with me one day and helped me during difficult times. How can I adjust through this and change my perception towards it?
Well, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to hang around with them. You remain friends, and you have respect for them. It's just that you don't want to live how they're living now. Well, don't spend as much time with them. There's people in my life that I'm friends with. I don't spend a lot of time with them, because I don't want to do what they're doing. I don't want to think the way they're thinking or live the way they're living. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying that's not what I want. I don't have a lot of real close friends. I have many acquaintances, but I think I'm much the same as many people that are fairly successful at what they're doing. They're very busy. I am really busy. I have a lot of things going on. So if I'm going to spend time with other people, I want to spend time with people who are upbeat, who are very positive and moving in the right direction. And that's like most of the people in our company. Like Tracy that's on the line with me. She's a very upbeat woman. And everybody talks well of her. Never hear anybody complain about the way she works. They all bragging about the way she works. That's the kind of people you want to work with. That's the kind of people you want to spend time with. And that's what I do. You don't need to feel guilty about not spending time with the other people. Just gradually drift away. You only have so much time in a day. You want to put it to good use. Okay?
All right, next question's from Merle. What does Genevieve Baran mean? The creative power only works by deductive methods.
That's a good question. Your subconscious mind is totally deductive. Your conscious mind is inductive and deductive. And what do we mean by that? Well, inductive reasoning is choosing thoughts, putting thoughts together, and arrive at an idea. It's individual thoughts come together and form an idea. An idea is a thought or a collection of thoughts that are directed towards a purpose. That is inductive reasoning. When a person's not thinking, they're totally deductive. The earth is deductive. The earth is immoral. The earth does not care what you plant, but it will return what you plant. I think Earl Nightingale in The Strangest Secret recording explained that very well. He said, you can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, and not a 16th of an inch away, plant corn, a sweet food. One will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. That's like the subconscious mind. It has no ability to reject. It'll only accept. It has no ability to reject. Any idea that reaches your subconscious mind affects your entire being. It's totally deductive. In other words, it must accept whatever is given to it. It has no ability to reject. The inductive reasoning can accept or reject. Subconscious cannot do that. Okay? That's a good question.
All right, next one's from Jatin. Bob, you say in selling we should always focus on how much value we are adding to prospects through our product or service. My question, if a customer is getting the desired outcome results through my company product, as well as from a competition product also, and the cost of my product is higher than the competition, then how do we convince the end user to buy my product, even if it's a little bit on the higher side? So he put some examples here. My company name is A. I don't know why that word's giving me so much trouble. The competitor's company's name is B. The end user's name is C. Both A and B offer a product or service to C. Both A and B are the market leaders in their field. However, price of A is higher than B, and both company services are a high standard. How do I convince end users, C, to own from me these products? Do we have any recipes or tools or techniques to overcome such situation?
Absolutely. I charge more than other competing companies, and the added value is me. You are the added value. They can only get you with the company that they're dealing with you. You are the added value. There's many people that will pay more to stay with the person they're dealing with. You add such phenomenal service. Nobody can do what you do. You're unique. And you want to remember that. That's the difference. And that is a good question, but that's the answer.
All right, next one's from Elizabeth. When you read other people's energies, can you also change their energy flow and move it into a higher frequency? When you work with people in your elite coaching programs, I assume you change them. When I tune into your frequencies, would you be able to change them so I can tune into the real me and be very successful?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You do that, you change the person's frequency by changing the ideas you get them to start to entertain. The ideas they start to get emotionally involved with. And you keep feeding them information so it raises their level of conscious awareness. Like the only reason a person earns $100,000 a year is because they're not aware of how to earn $100,000 a month. If you're aware of how to earn 100 a month, they're not going to earn 100 a year. So if you want to earn more money, you've got to develop a higher awareness, a greater level of conscious awareness. That is my objective with everyone I work with. I'm going to be doing a seminar in Los Angeles starting Thursday night with Sandy Gallagher. Our whole objective would be to raise the consciousness of that group. And I'm going to make it very clear to them. If you tune in, if you're going to be there, that's great. If you're not going to be there, you can tune in on streaming, and it'll be up for a couple of weeks. So if you have to go in and out of the house over the weekend, that's fine. But I would suggest you tune into the streaming of it. We'll stream right onto your computer, wherever you are. And I'm going to make the people aware, as soon as I start, that we're going to be giving them information that's going to cause them to make decisions. And if they want to improve the quality of their life, they're going to have to make decisions. So I'm going to say you want to be prepared to make decisions while we're here this weekend. And as I start working with you at different concepts, I'm going to say, here, now, this is what you should do. Now, make up your mind you're going to do it. And I'm not telling them something that is complicated to understand. I'm telling them something that's very simple to understand. Growth is not difficult. It's changing our paradigms that's difficult, and that's what the whole program's about on the weekend. So my objective would be to raise your frequency, put you on a higher frequency, get you moving into a better space, okay?
All right, next one's from Kendra. I know you have surpassed Napoleon Hill in knowledge. Is there anything you disagree with in Think and Grow Rich?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't know as I've passed him in knowledge. I've studied it longer than him, and I had the benefit of everything he studied to start with, which is an enormous gift. But I wouldn't say I've surpassed him. I have no way of knowing that. I have nothing but the highest degree of respect for him and the work that he's done. And I've benefited from it and still do as of today.
All right, next one's from Renata. I'm wondering in TIR, why is the part about the life script placed in Lesson 6 instead of Lesson 1? It seems beneficial to do this exercise in Lesson 1 and imagine it in more detail again in Lesson 6.
Well, that's probably true for some people, Renata. What we do is we want to get the person moving on a learning frequency before we get them to do that. That's a very important part. So we want to give them a bit of a base. If you're building a house, you have to lay a strong foundation. And if it doesn't have a strong foundation, then you're building on sand and it won't stand. And I think that would probably be the logic behind it. Sandy Gallagher and I put that together. It was really Sandy's baby. But I think that'd be the answer. Okay.
All right. Next one's from Patricia. What are your 3 biggest achievements and how low did you go before your first achievement?
How low did I go? How low can you go? Listen, I have had some real down times. Make no mistake. I have made a few errors and I've lost everything a couple of times, but I never let it stop me. And I've got to the point now when I make a mistake, I know that that's not bad. I just didn't know what I was doing. I made a mistake. You learn from your mistakes. You don't learn from your wins. My 3 greatest achievements, I don't know. I've never really measured it like that. I've had some wonderful things happen. I think the people I'm working with is one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I have some wonderful associates. Sandy Gallagher has literally changed the course of my life and what I do because she's so brilliant in the area of finance. But we have other people that are every bit as brilliant in certain areas. Tracy, that's on the phone, she could figure me right through a brick wall when it comes to working with a computer. She's really a bright lady, but she's surrounded by a lot of bright people. The woman she works for is extremely brilliant. I think the biggest achievements is to attract the people that I've attracted into my life that I work with. I work with just the best people in the world. I wouldn't trade anybody that works in this company for anybody else. We have, I think, about 60 people work in the company, and they are extraordinary individuals, just great individuals. I'm proud to be working with any of them. Okay.
Me too. We have a great team.
We really do, Tracy. I mean, you think about it. I've worked at a lot of places around the world. I've never worked with a better team of people than we've got here.
I agree. All right, our next one is from Hannah. All we need to do in life is to help ourselves for a change. How did you find help? Did you ask for help or did it just come to you?
No, it came to me. Somebody saw me and they saw me struggling and they knew how to win. And so they told me in those uncertain terms to smarten up. And he got me to look at his life. He was happy, healthy, and wealthy. He was a big guy and always had a roll of money in his pocket. He was just a happy guy. And he said, look at those three areas, happiness, health, and wealth. He says, you're losing in all of them. He said, why don't you smarten up? And he said, if you'll do what I tell you, I'll show you how to get anything you want. Well, I didn't believe that, but I believed he believed it because he was very adamant about how he said it. And so I started to work with him. And that's when my life changed. But he was the one that initiated it, not me. I would like to think that I had the wisdom to do it, but I didn't.
All right, next one's from Lois. Is it important to know what our limitations are?
You don't have any limitations, Lois. U.S. Anderson wrote, when you fully realize that thought causes all, you will know there's never any limit that you yourself do not impose. Look around you. I can see all kinds of things. I see chairs, lamps, pictures, computers, plants. Everything that's been made by man was an idea in somebody's mind to start off with. Little boys and little girls start to think, and they get older and they quit thinking. Unfortunately, the smart ones keep thinking, and they know they come to the conclusion that their thoughts can turn into reality in their life because you become what you think about. That's the one point that every great leader agreed on. They've disagreed on everything else. You don't have any limitations. That's why you should keep going bigger, better, faster. Okay?
All right, next one's from Tommy. I recently heard a teacher friend of yours say, keep your big vision goal general as opposed to specific. So thinking and feeling abundance and prosperity versus X dollars by X date. What are your thoughts on that?
You recently heard a teacher friend of mine say, keep your big goal or vision general as opposed to specific. I don't know who that teacher was, but they're on the wrong track. You want to have a goal. You want to be very specific, and you want to be measurable too. You want to zero in. You say, I want to win. Well, at what? Doing what? No, your goal should be specific, and it should be measurable. And the more specific you can be, the clearer the picture in your mind, because what you're doing is you're building a picture. When you write a goal, you're painting a picture in words is what you're doing. You want to make it so clear that if I read what you wrote, I would have the same picture in my mind as you have in yours. And then you want to know that if you stay emotionally involved with that, it must move into form just the same as the stars are going to come out tonight. Stars are already out. But You're going to see them tonight. Okay?
All right, next one's from Charnel. I am super awesome at making some great choices, and with others not so great. How do I make my highest choice in all situations with clarity?
Well, I think I could say the same thing you're saying. I make some great choices sometimes, and others I don't do so well. And that's, like there's a law of rhythm. Somebody was talking about astronomy a little while ago. Well, there's a rhythm of life. There's a biorhythm. Intellectually, you're going to be at a high. And then as time passes, you're going to go into a low swing. Emotionally, you're going to be on a high swing, and then you're going to be on a low swing. Physically, you're going to be on a high swing, and then you're going to be on a low swing. There's days that you feel like you could take on the whole world. You are just right at your peak. That's when you're at a critical high, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. And there's days when you're on a critical low, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. There's airlines that will not let their pilots fly when they're on a critical low because they're not performing well. Well, you can have your biorhythm charted and see that. I've never wanted to have that done, although many people have tried to do it, because I don't want to know when I'm a critical low. I just want to be on a high as long as I can and as much as I can, and I know I can control that to some degree. But we do know that you're not going to be on a real high all the time. So you're not going to make the great choices all the time. You're not going to make bad ones all the time. But when you're on a high swing, you're going to make better choices probably than you are when you're on a low swing. But that's a rhythm process of life. The tide goes out, the tide comes in. The night follows the day. That's rhythm. Well, you're on a rhythm. You have a period or you don't have a period. Some people think only women have a period. Men have periods too. They just are expressed in different ways probably. But that all has to do with rhythm. Okay? Next one.
All right, next one's from June. Hello, Bob. I have left my job as a bookkeeper to have my own online business. I'm receiving negative responses from friends and family. What technique do you recommend to deal with those responses?
Just laugh at them. Say, well, I want you to remember this. I would like you to write down what you've just told me. And when I become super successful, I want you to take it out and read it. Because what I'm doing, anybody can do. I am learning how to bring more of me to the party. And I'm going to have my own online business, and I'm going to be one successful individual. Trust me, because I already am in my mind. It just hasn't manifested yet. Do not let those people get to you. I remember one time I was working at Nightingale Conant, and I made up my mind I was going to leave there and I was going to start doing what Earl did. And I had a friend of mine that I had been a very good friend to him. And he had worked with me in different places, and he was working for me there. And I phoned one day, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing nothing, just looking after the kids. Wife's gone out somewhere. So I said, could I come over and see you? And he said, sure. Now, this is a friend of mine. And I made a recording. Now, it was probably the worst production recording that anybody has ever made. It was god-awful. But it was the idea. I had made this recording, and I went over, and I told him, I said, I want you to listen to something. And I turned it on. Well, production quality was horrible. It was on a little computer, little recorder, and I had to snap it on and off and on and off as I was starting, no edits or anything. And as it went on, Joel Goldsmith wrote a book called The Thunder of Silence. Well, I'm going to tell you, I understood what that meant. That room became, the tension in it became just ridiculous. He was so embarrassed he couldn't look at me. He was embarrassed for me. He was thinking, you got to be out of your mind to think you can do what you're talking about. Before it was finished, I said, well, it was just an idea, and I turned the recorder off, and I had a hell of a time getting out of the house. I couldn't get out fast enough. My legs were going like a windmill, but they were actually not moving very fast physically. Mentally, I was rushing out of that place, but physically, I was moving very slow. And I said, well, it was just an idea, and I was making apologies and everything. And I'm driving home, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm letting that guy steal my dream. I said, no way I'm going to do this. I'm getting out there, and I'm going to make it happen. I didn't let them get to me. Don't let them get to you. You go and you prove to them just what you've got and what you're made of, Jim. Okay.
All right, next one's from Monika. How can I make me believe in my big dreams?
Meditate on it. Rewrite it. Keep writing it out over and over in the present tense. If you write a lie out and you write it often enough in the present tense, and always in positive terminology, I'm so happy and grateful now that, and you keep writing it, you will start believing it. Listen, early 1930s, Hitler became a chancellor in Germany. 1939, he invaded Poland. It was called Blitzkrieg, boom, and took over the whole country. Hitler came very close to ruling the whole world. He was burning people alive, gassing them. He was a very charismatic speaker. He was a phenomenal speaker. He was a smart person. He built the Volkswagen, the people's car. He built the Autobahn, fastest highway in the world in Germany. But he was an evil guy. He wasn't stupid. He was very smart, but I think he was evil. He had the people convinced they should burn the books. Then they started to be convinced they should burn the people. You hear a lie often enough and you'll start to believe it. Now, you may say this is a lie, this big dream of yours, because you really couldn't do that. You write it out often enough in present tense and you're going to start believing it. William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact. Do not let yourself stop going after your dream. Do it. Next.
All right, next one's from Jean. I was raised as a Christian Scientist, so I've studied metaphysics all my life. What would you say is a foundational quality that needs to be developed without which you cannot succeed? Would it be discipline?
Yeah, not all Christian Science understood what they're doing. I have worked with many Christian Science and they didn't really understand what was happening. The practitioner will tell you to be very quiet, become very receptive at 3 p.m. Eastern Time every day. And the practitioner will send an image. It's a healing image to your mind. If you are not thinking, your mind then is in a deductive state. We talked about that a little earlier. That's called thought transference. It's going on all the time. And the practitioner, we think the practitioner's healing, but the practitioner can't heal. The practitioner can only send the image. It's the idea that heals. And Christian Science is a great thing. Mary Baker Eddy started it. It's a great concept. But a lot of people that are involved in it don't really understand the mechanism or the science behind it. As you start to understand it, it takes discipline. It takes concentration. The practitioner has to concentrate. The person that's receiving the treatment must be totally relaxed with their mind wide open, and then the practitioner will transfer that idea right into their mind. It's just the same as if I go in here, I can go to my phone and I hit the directory and I put Tracy's name in and the number will come up. If I hit that number, Tracy's phone will ring. How'd that happen? It's called the transference of energy. It's a frequency. I got on the frequency that Tracy's phone's on. Well, the practitioner gets on the frequency that the patient is on or the subjective person is on. So discipline is definitely important. You've got to discipline yourself to focus on the good. Focus on the good. And only focus on the good. Okay?
All right, next one's from Patricia. When selling, what is the opening sentence you say to a prospect over the phone? What do you say if they ask, what will this do for me?
Well, first of all, if that's Patricia, I'd start off by saying, Patricia, you don't really know me, but I was given your name, and would you mind if I asked you a few questions? Because your friend Bill thinks that what I've got you could really benefit from, but if I could ask you a few questions, maybe we could determine if Bill was right or not. And I'd start to ask you some questions about yourself. I would want to find out, how is this going to help you? Well, I've got to know something about you. So I'd start asking questions about you. I'd get to know you. I'd say some of the questions I may ask you, Patricia, may be personal. And it's not that I, want to dig into anything that's very confidential with you, but it'll help me understand who you are, where you are, and then I could determine maybe if what I've got could help you. It's just, how old are you, Patricia? And now that's just going to tell me how conditioned you may be in your way of thinking. She said, why do you want to know? Well, I said, I want to know, how conditioned you might be in your way of thinking. Because what I'm talking about here could change your way of thinking. When you do that, you change your life. So you ask questions, just sell by asking questions. Pardon me. And when you're asking questions, you want to listen to understand. Don't listen to hear. Listen to understand where they're coming from. Okay.
Next one's from Danielle. I am in deep with the self-image right now, and you mentioned the image of perfection that lies in the center of our consciousness. Is that different from our inner self-image?
No, that is your inner self-image. There's perfection that lies within you. You're perfect. You're created in God's image. Our problem is we got that reversed. We created God in our image. There's perfection within you. You have creative mental tools. You have perception, the will, reason, imagination, intuition, memory. And these are all higher faculties. Well, through the use of these higher faculties, we can tap into this perfection that's within us. The perfection within us always wants to express itself in a greater way. It's spiritual. Spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. We must permit it to express itself freely with and through us. Okay?
All right, next one's from Eileen. When you first started the business, who was the first person you employed? Was it a salesperson, a marketer, an accountant?
First person I employed was an assistant. And I'm going to tell you, I would tell anybody to do that. You can't do anything of any consequence on your own. I have an assistant now. She's been with me for over 30 years, 33 years. Gina Hayden. She is incredible. She is so phenomenal. She anticipates what I need, and it's done before I even mention I want it. But I've worked with her for 33 years. If I was starting a business, first thing I'd do is get an assistant. Otherwise, you're going to have to do everything yourself.
All right. Next one's from Frank. Please explain how to get emotionally involved with an idea.
Get a hold of the book, The Art of Acting by Stella Adler. Stella Adler was a great acting teacher. She was just an incredible acting teacher, method acting. Marlon Brando was one of her students. He wrote the foreword to the book. Now, Stella Adler never actually wrote a book. A man named Kissel took all her lessons, her acting lessons, and turned it into a book after she passed on. So when you read The Art of Acting, you're going to her acting classes, and she teaches you how to get emotionally involved with ideas. And if you watch great actors, they get you emotionally involved with ideas. They will make you laugh. They'll make you cry. They get you scared. You'll be sitting and don't do that. They really get you involved. You let yourself get emotionally involved. It's an acting technique. Become a great actor. And Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. Okay?
All right, next one's from Tara. She has 2 questions. First one, what is the most effective approach in helping potential clients come up with the money to pay for TIR when they have committed but lack the funds? I have many people who love to work with me. The challenge in getting them signed up as a client in TIR seems to be the money. What would you suggest I do?
I'd suggest you change your attitude about that. That's not their problem at all. Lack of money is never a problem. They do not want it enough. I want you to think of everything you've got in your home or in your clothes closet or your wardrobe, whatever. There's all kinds of things there you don't need. You got them because you want them. When you want something bad enough, you'll always find the money for it. Remember I told you at the start how I started in the cleaning business? Well, the guy told me, he said, there's good money cleaning offices, but he said, you got to do it for yourself. Don't clean for somebody else. If I was working for somebody else at that time, I would have got $1 an hour. Working for myself, I got between $10 and $20 an hour. Now, he said, you're going to have some equipment. You got to get a floor machine and some buckets and mops. I didn't have any money. I owed everybody and his brother money. I was earning $4,000 a year, but I owed $6,000. So if I paid what I owed, taken every cent I earned for 18 months, nothing to live on, I would have just broken even. I wouldn't have lent me money. It's not that I was dishonest. It's just that I never earned enough to pay it back. But I wanted this so much that I kept asking people to lend me money. I went to a trust office on St. Clair Ave or on Danforth Avenue in Toronto. There was a new trust company. The guy's name was Al Kuiper, the manager. I'll never forget him. And he said, why do you want this money? I wanted $1,000. I needed $980 to be exact. And I said, I want to buy used floor machines and some buckets and mops. I'm going to build a business. And he kept asking me questions. And I was very enthused about it. And I was emotionally involved. And he said, you know something? I think you're going to do it. I'm going to give you the money. I was shocked when he lent me the money. I had a terrible credit rating. But I really wanted that money. When you want something bad enough, you'll always find the money for it. When somebody tells me they can't afford it, I'll say, wait a minute. What they're really saying is you haven't made me want this well enough. You got to get them emotionally involved. When they say, well, I really can't afford it, say, you can't afford not to have this. I'm going to tell you something. When you say I can't afford this, it'll probably be the last time you're ever going to have to say it because you're going to learn how to earn money with this. Now, if you have to go and borrow $1,000 off 6 or 7 people, go and do it. You have to write them an IOU and say to them, if I have to tell you what it's for, I don't need it. But I want you to trust me, and I'll pay it back every cent. Get the money. When they want this bad enough, they'll get it. When you convince them that this is going to do the job, this has changed all kinds of lives. It's changed the lives of huge companies. There you go. Them not having the money is not a problem. The problem is you haven't made them want it enough.
All right, and her second question. I want to lead another 28-day online group event to get clients committed and working with UI and TIR. What are some of the key areas that I should focus on, and how little or how much of TIR should I share?
You're going to have them work with you for 28 days.
Gallagher, Sandy.
You're going to have them work with you for 28 days, did you say?
Yeah, she's going to run, I think, like an online seminar for 28 days.
Well, first of all, I don't think I'd do that. I may put on a presentation once or twice, but if you spend too much time with the people, they'll figure they've got it all. You've got to leave them wanting more. If you ever go and see some kind of an entertainer, singer or something like that, they'll come out at the end of the show, they come back out on stage and they take a bow and they leave the stage and everybody's clapping and clapping and clapping. They want them to come out again. And they may come out again. And then the audience keeps clapping and wants them to come out again. But they don't come out. They always leave you wanting more. That's what you've got to do with your prospects. You've got to leave them wanting more. You're going to get emotionally involved in these. You want to get that book, The Art of Acting. Study it. Become a real product of the product. Make them want what you've got. and say, listen, this idea you can't afford it is not a valid idea. How many other areas of your life does this show up in? Every time you want something you haven't got, you say, I can't get it because I can't afford it. Don't you know that all the money in the world is available to you? All you have to do is earn it. What you have to do is learn how to raise your level of thinking about yourself. Get involved in a big idea. That's what this program's going to do. Now let's quit screwing around and let's figure out how to do this. Let me help you. And start thinking about the people that would lend you the money. That makes sense, Tara?
Sounds good. All right. Next one is from Chris. When reading my goal card, which one's more powerful? Emotion or feeling, like Napoleon Hill says, or expectation, as Neville says?
Well, the emotional involvement is going to bring on the expectation. Expectation is it's the forerunner for the law of attraction. It's the emotional involvement that gets you expecting it. When you understand the mind and you get emotionally involved, you're going to expect it to happen. You understand the laws. You understand that your subjective mind is totally deductive. It can only accept. It cannot reject. So you plant that in your mind and you get very emotional about it. That's going to cause you to expect it. The more you understand the law, it's called the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. The idea moves into form with and through you. And the vibration you're in dictates what you attract. You can only attract according to the frequency that you're on. Okay?
All right. Next one's from Nicole. Hello from Austria. I can't sleep. I'm so excited. I found my dream home. Everything I want is included. The home is 3.7 million euros. Last year, my income was around 20,000 euros. I would like to buy this home by May. What can I do to have this money?
Well, you're sure going to have to raise your level of consciousness. But I can tell you this. You can earn the money to buy the home. First of all, you don't need 3.7 million euros. That's the full price of the home. So you probably need maybe 20% of that as a down payment. So break that down. Now you're down to a smaller number. Then start to break it, reduce it to the ridiculous. Go to that home, visit that home. Tell the real estate agent to leave you alone, and you sit down in every room and you image yourself living in that room. I don't care if you have to get in a bathtub and image yourself maybe having a bath in there. Use the toilet. Go to the bathroom. Get into the various rooms. Sit there and image yourself living in those rooms. And don't let anybody tell you you can't have it. 3.7 million is not a lot. It's only a lot compared to the 20,000 euros that you're earning. But if you compare it to 8 million euros, it's not very much. Relate it to something bigger. Reduce everything to the ridiculous. Okay?
All right, next one's from Diana. How do I change my self-image and paradigm and begin to see results in all of the areas of my life? That's what I need the most. I am overwhelmed with tackling all areas at once.
Well, don't try and change all areas at once. Just make up your mind you're going to change your the image you have of yourself. That's it. And so you see yourself as a much more effective person. You do that, and it'll work. It'll work like magic for you. Always has, always will. Okay?
All right. Next one's from Simon. What should I study or do to stop being self-centered? When selling, I realize I have to give without concern of getting in return, but it's only an intellectual understanding. How do I live it?
Well, that's a hell of a good question, I'll tell you that. You live it. First of all, I'd recommend you start being very grateful for what you've got. Write down 10 things you're grateful for every morning. And really develop an attitude of gratitude. And then realize that there's been a lot of people that have put a lot of energy into you getting all the good things that you've got. And you've got to realize that no one does anything on their own. If you just study what I've done or something like that, you may say, God, you must be so much of a dynamo and all that. No, 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 no. I've got a lot of people help me. Really good people and people that really care. And that's what you've got to do. And you're going to do that by not being so self-centered. Focus on other people. How can I make them feel better about themselves? I think Dale Carnegie had a good concept. Visualize MMFI printed on people's foreheads. When you go to work with them, see MMFI printed in big bold letters on their forehead. That means make me feel important. You focus on making them feel important. That'll get your mind off yourself. Billy Graham one time said the smallest package in the world is a person that's all wrapped up in themselves. People that are most successful are the ones that really care about other people. There you go, Simon. We got time for one more.
All right, next one's from Marta. Do you think our souls decide when and where we are going to born? If so, why do some people decide to born in unpleasant conditions?
That's a good question. I have a theory on that. I don't know if it's right or not. First of all, I do believe in reincarnation. I think we've been here before. I think when we leave, we know everything that we have learned, and we know everything we have to learn. So we choose to incarnate into a situation that's going to help us. It's going to give us the opportunity to learn what we have to learn. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to learn it, but at least we'd have the opportunity to. Okay? Go ahead and ask the other two you've got there.
Okay. Next one's from Elsie. How can I onboard clients from my corporation who don't want to be grouped together? In fact, senior leadership needs this too, but privacy is an issue.
Oh, well, put them with people. Don't just deal in the company. That's a good point. Get people from other places and put them in it. Yeah, mix it up.
Okay. And last one's from Simon. Can you explain the difference between Think and Grow Rich and the Spirit of Opulence? Think and Grow Rich says be fixed about the amount you want and the given service, whereas Troward suggests a general opulence instead.
Well, I actually agree with both of them, and I don't think they're contradictory. Troward says when you're dealing with infinite, you can never ask for too much. I also believe in what, and I believe that Troward is very good in developing a consciousness of opulence in all aspects of your life. Now, Think and Grow Rich, he'll say, be specific. And you're getting into it, I think, better by being specific. And then put a date on it. Work expands to fill the time allotted for it. I think that was Northcote Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time allotted for it. So you got to be specific and then put a time date on it. You're guessing at the time, though. You don't know. But I wouldn't be too concerned which one's right. You follow either one of them, you're going to do very well. Follow them both. I do. Tracy, you have been incredible. Again, I was glad when I heard you were doing this because you do such a good job all the time.
Well, thanks, Bob. I enjoy it, and I hope you have fun in New York, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday in LA.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Tracy.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.